Dr. Asif, you are not some dim-wit extremist ejected from the Apprentice unceremoniously.
Allowed to universities, etc. It wasn't Muslim Spain. It wasn't Muslim Iraq. It wasn't the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't Istanbul. We didn't have any problems with Jewish people. The actions are satanic.
They're the one with the demons. They're the one with the oppressors. They're the one with the savages, animals. What they did in Gaza Lake was a savage. They're terrorists. We will always never come out of hell. I wish the truth about the destruction of the culture and of the Palestinian people. It's terrible. I read it. I had tears in my eyes. I shed a lot of tears in my eyes about the destruction of Gaza, after which knows so much. If he's anti-Semite and I'm anti-Semite and Rabbi Beck is anti-Semite, I'm banning the Israeli flag.
It's good that you said that.
If he dared to criticize it and he doesn't keep his mouth shut, so he's deserved to be deprived from his work. And I'm here to give support for my this brother.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear viewers, listeners, welcome back to Summer Podcast. Today we have a special episode. I want to remind my Muslim brothers and sisters upon a famous hadith from our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, us as Muslims, we are told, if we see evil in the world, let us change it with our hands. If we cannot do so, let us change it with our tongues. And if we cannot do that, then let us hate it in our hearts. Now, I believe many of us who are active in this movement, the genocide against Palestinians, we are on the second stages of Iman, meaning we're trying to change it in our hearts. Now, today, we want to talk about the notion of, or the idea of anti-Semitism. What is anti-Semitism? We have, I would say, the authority on Judaism, and we also have a special guest that he's been widely vocal about this topic. Now, beside me, to my right-hand side, we have Dr. Asif Munaf. Dr. Asif Munaf, you have seen him on Dragon's Den. You also have seen him on The Apprentice. He was ejected from The Apprentice unceremoniously because of his ideas, his beliefs, his ethics on what's going on in Palestine. To my right, I have Rabbi Beck. This is his third time. I would say you are local in Summer Podcasts. I would like to welcome both of you. Welcome, guys, to the podcast. Now, I want to start the idea of anti-Semitism. I want to start with Dr. Asif Munaf. What do you think anti-Semitism is? And what is Semitism to your belief? And then I'll bring the actual authority who can educate us today on us as Muslims and people who are not Muslim. When we talk about what's happening in Palestine, are we being discriminatory? So what is anti-Semitism?
Good question. And assalamu alaikum. And Rabbi Beck, pleasure to be here. Thank you for sharing the stage with me. So anti-Semitism, so if you look at it 100 years ago, the definition, or if you looked at it pre-World War I, certainly pre-Holocaust, the definition would have meant, linguistically speaking, I believe in etymology, looking at words, where they come from. Anti, meaning against, Semitism, Semitic people. Who are the Semitic people? Those that occupy the Semitic areas and they speak the Semitic languages, so Hebrew, Aramaic, Arabic even. So anti-Semitism was the discrimination, the hatred, the vitriol directed towards Semitic people. Those who speak Hebrew, those who speak Arabic, those who are of Arabic descent, who are Hebrew descent. We know from Abraham, two sons, Isaac and Ismail, Isaac and Ishmael. So that was the pre-Second World War definition. Now, and rightly so, anti-Semitism means hatred of the Jewish faith, i.e. Judaism, the Jewish people, and their beliefs and values. And it means a inherent dislike for the propagation of Judaism, it means an inherent dislike and an objection towards the faith, the culture, the race, the beliefs. What anti-Semitism isn't is being against the Zionist movement of the remigration of Jewish people into the Holy Land. So anti-Semitism, that's the definition in terms of what I understand.
Okay, now, Rabbi Elhanan Beck, we've heard the definitions, and this is more, let's say, the perception of us who don't have an actual doctrine of Judaism. Would you say what Dr. Asif Munaf said? How correct is he upon his definitions?
He's speaking more as a doctor. I'm speaking as a simple person. I'm just a rabbi, I'm not a doctor, and I'm speaking about the views of the religion. To say exactly what that is, anti-Semitism, and this, you have to go in this philosophy. I'm speaking just the actual facts of today. People confusing anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism that haven't got any connection at all, nothing to do. Nobody can deny the plain fact that, firstly, that we have a golden life in all Muslim countries for centuries. We live together much better than the other parts of the world. Everybody knows a bit history, knows that very well. We were persecuted in Europe and in other places, and we fled from there. In the Arab countries welcome us. They give us such a good hospitality. All these pogroms, blood libels, and so on, what was in Europe very often, this never happened in the Muslim countries. Everybody knows a bit history and knows that. And give a look, even today's day, Jews live peacefully in all Muslim countries. Jews live in Morocco, in Tunisia, Algeria, Iran, Turkey, Yemen. Everywhere is full of Jewish people. They have no problem. The Muslim countries have no problem with Jews. That shows very clearly that this is not a religious conflict, having got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. This is just plain a conflict of occupation, of genocide, of killing. I mean, just imagine, and there's no difference if the occupiers are Jews or Japanese or Chinese or black, white, no difference. People naturally hate occupiers, that's all. Just imagine what will happen if here in England the French or the Spanish will invade England, how it will look like. It looks the same. It may be much worse than that, what's happened in Palestine. I mean, the situation was going on there in Palestine. This is the fruit of 75 years of occupation, of exiling thousands, hundreds of thousands of Muslim people from the land, from the properties, taking it over. It's haven't got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. In this plain fact, what the world denies, they just make a blind eye on that. The Jews live peaceful in all the Muslim countries. Nobody can deny that. I myself, I was in Morocco a few years ago. It's already after 70 years of occupation. It was 5 years ago. And still I crossed the border and the Muslim people come to me, Rabbi, bless my children. I couldn't understand that. After 70 years of occupation, still people come to me, Rabbi, bless my children. It's unbelievable. It's haven't got nothing to do with anti-Semitism, with any race, with nothing. It's just a simple anti-occupation, anti-genocide. And as I say every time, that we just met the head of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, in Turkey for 6 weeks ago, the conference. He saw our rabbis coming in. He praised them and he say, I want to declare openly we haven't got nothing to do against Jews.
Yes.
we have only a problem with occupiers. Jewish people will be welcome in the future Palestine.
So let me just clarify. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, Rabbi. You are saying the leader of Hamas embraced you as a Jewish rabbi. So this propaganda that Hamas hates anything to do with Jewish, wants to eradicate Jews. Sorry, we're just joined by Rabbi Sofa. Rabbi Sofa, please, you've come at the right time.
Welcome, shalom.
Join us, please.
Welcome. Good to see you.
Yes, please. Salah. Please, your seat is right there. You've come at the right time.
You've come at the hot time.
Yes, just have a seat, please. Yeah. So Rabbi Sofa has just walked into the room. He's running a bit late, but we've made it. And he's an integral part, I would say, of educating and engaging. Right, so we were just saying that 6 weeks ago, Rabbi Elhanan Beck was in Turkey.
One of my colleagues, Rabbi Weiss.
Oh, sorry. So Rabbi Wise was in Turkey, and what was it, an exhibition or function? The leader of Hamas was there.
Yes.
Now, the leader of Hamas was there, and he embraced your fellow rabbi.
Yes.
And he said, we have no problem with Jewish people. So this propaganda that Hamas wants to kill all Jews in the face of earth, this cannot be true, because the leader of Hamas was there and he embraced one of your leaders. Now, before we bring Rabbi Sofa, I want to go back to Dr. Asif Munaf. Dr. Asif Munaf, maybe I wasn't clear in the beginning, in my introduction, how I introduced him. Dr. Asif Munaf is a medical doctor. Currently, he's fighting his case with the NHS, is it? Or
GMC, General Medical Council, as well as the BBC.
They are assessing you, right? Because of what you've said online, on Twitter and things like that. Now, in this setting right now, this should be testament that we are sitting with actually the authority on Judaism, right? Rabbi Elhanan Beck has said, the leader of Hamas has embraced us and said, we have no problem with the Jewish religion or the doctrine. We just don't like occupiers and people who are committing genocide against our people. Now, what is it that you said online that's put you in this position? What is it? Can you tell our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, good question. Before I answer that, I just want to extend a welcome to Rabbi Sofa. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
And going back to the question about occupation, nobody likes occupiers. So if someone walked into the room now or walked into our house, we would defend ourselves. So yeah, it's a human nature. It's one of our natures of survival. Nobody likes occupiers. So that's just one thing I wanted to say. And secondly, going back to the very first question, what is anti-Semitism? If you actually want to see the definition of anti-Semitism, don't go to Hamas, don't go to the Muslim lands, go to Europe, go to Russia, go to Nazi Germany, go to Poland, go to Auschwitz, go to England. What did King Edward I do? You know, Jews were exiled for 300 to 400 years, and they came back when Oliver Cromwell came back to he came in charge. Jews in the UK were persecuted. I went to York University. I was there for 6 years. At the top of the hill, there's a Clifford Tower. 150 Jewish men and women and children were burnt in the tower. It's still there. The Clifford Tower is still there. Islam, Muslim lands have never had a problem with Judaism. Christian Europe has. Nazi Europe has. In fact, where did the persecuted European Jews go to? There was a famous Jewish doctor, Moses Maimonides. He was an Andalusian doctor in Andalus. And only when the Reconquista happened, when Christians expelled Muslims and Jews, that 400 years of the Jewish Golden Age came to an end. Some of the scholars, the doctors, all came, under Muslim protection in Spain. So, if you want to see a definition of your question, what is anti-Semitism? If you want to see a definition, a physical definition, just read the history books of Europe, because you won't find that in Morocco or Afghanistan, which is my homeland. We've got a big Jewish community there. Yemen.
You'll find a lot at the contrary.
Exactly. You'll find peaceful coexistence. You'll find intermarriage.
Well, there's a lot to talk about it, and I think that the whole night will not be enough to talk about.
Absolutely.
We have to summarize it.
Absolutely. And even in Islam, one of the Prophet, peace be upon him, his wife was Safiya. And God says in the Quran, people of the book. The problem is then when it's hijacked, in Judaism or the Jewish race, the faith, the culture, the creed is hijacked by liberal atheist secularists who are hell-bent on fascist ideology, and they don't even believe in God.
Yeah.
Theodore Herzl, Benjamin Netanyahu, even these guys are atheists. Yeah. But anyway, so the question about...
The question was, the reason why I'm asking you this question is because I want you to say what you've been talking online.
Cool.
That's got you this assessment with the General Medical Council. That's got you where they're trying to get you ostracized from the society.
Yeah.
That got you ejected from the Apprentice. And then I want to bring Rabbi Sofa to see his reaction because...
Cool. So I've been speaking about Zionism for about 20 years now, since 2006. Yes. When I first started university, I went to the University of York. We had a very strong pro-Israel lobby at the University of York. And I was 18 years old. I was debating these guys in the Henry Jackson Society, the JSOC, very heavily pro-Zionist. I've been debating these guys for many, many years. So what I said and what I have been saying for the last 20 years is anti-Israel rhetoric. And I said it in 2021, I said it in 2014, because in 2023, what we saw in October the 7th, it's only a continuation of many, I know they call it the Iron Wall Offensive, the IDF, that's what they call it, but they've had many, many more. They've done raids for many, decades now, for 75, since the IDF being created, they've done many, raids on Palestinian occupied territories, and this is not even to talk about the settlements which are happening in Jerusalem, etc. So I've been a vocal, ardent critic of Zionism, and what I said at the end of last year, in October, when IDF launched its genocidal campaign, carpet bombing Gaza, splitting into two, containing 2 million people, and expecting them to escape somewhere miraculously, not sparing man, woman, or child, bombing hospitals, and that's the one thing as a doctor I could not take, bombing healthcare workers who are attending the sick and wounded, bombing refugee camps, killing journalists. When that happened, I became more vocal, and I spoke against the genocidal tendencies of this monster, which the British establishment has created, backed by France and the States, and, believe it or not, Germany.
Yeah.
The country that should know better. The country that killed 6 million Jews, they should know better than this. But complete military...
They provided, forgive me for cutting you off, they provided this $15 billion, which needed $15 billion that could be like today, like $500 billion. They gave the money to build the state.
Absolutely. So it's funded. If you look at the Rothschilds and look at the funding as well, the financing of the Zionist project. I call it a project, by the way, because in Pakistan, which is
the Zionist movement.
Yeah, in Pakistan, we don't recognize Israel as a country. You actually, you can't. If you enter Israel, you can't go to Pakistan. You have to speak to the embassy and the consulate. It's one of the countries that doesn't recognize Israel. So we call it the project or entity, because as a country itself, it goes against all international laws. You cannot occupy a land, encroach on settlements, and then contravene so many United Nations conventions and regulations. Even now, how many of the, there's no country in the world that has breached more UN conventions than Israel. So going back to what I said strong words about the Zionist project. Yes. I said, these guys have weaponized the Holocaust. Yep. They weaponized the Holocaust to push another fascist ideology. Yes. And they said conflation of Zionism with Judaism. Criticizing Zionism is criticizing Judaism.
Okay.
And that's the conflation they're using now.
What we want to do here at Sema Podcast, we want to challenge the narrative. Now, let's have a hypothetical situation. You're a doctor. Let's say you was a GP, a Rabbi Sofa. Imagine Dr. Asif Munaf was your GP, and he had these ideologies, and you are a Jewish man, a practicing Jewish man. How would you feel having Dr. Munaf as your GP?
I would have felt that I have a brother, which is a doctor. He's a brother, first of all, then he's a doctor.
Yeah.
A doctor is just a side business. Yes. I would feel like he's a brother. With Muslims, I feel like one big family. Our shared history, which is about 13 years old, with full of so much help to each other, giving understanding, mercy that the Muslims that showed us during the 1300 years that went through, which the doctor mentioned briefly, shortly, but the 400 years, the golden age in Spain. But that was one example he brought. What about Northern African countries, which received the expelled Jews, 300,000 Jews in 1492, when the Muslim last kingdom of Grenada was being overrun by the Christians? They decided to kick out all the Jews that were siding with the Muslims. Yeah. Jews found understanding and mutual language during the time of the reconquest of Spain. That's why the Christians didn't want them anymore. Where did the Jews went? 300,000 Jews. They went to North Africa. Yes. They went to Palestine. The Palestinians opened the gates of Palestine with mercy. Yes. And the Sultan Salim, opened these gates of Turkey. 50,000 Jews went to Turkey. And that's only one case. All over the Arab countries, Iraq. Well, the Caliphate that was established by Ali Umar ibn Khattab when he captured Iraq from the from the Persian kingdom. The Jews went and greeted him, and he established the Jewish religious autonomy. Yes. It was amazing that the grandchildren of King David, of Prophet David, had the right to have a sort of religious autonomy that it was given by a religious fatwa through the Caliph. And the Caliph have ordered, the Muslim army to protect the Jews, and the Jews have paid fairly tax, the jizya, and they were very happy to live under the Muslims. All of our commentators of the Talmud speaking about the great time of living under the Muslim regimes. The doctor only touched it. Yes. And there's a lot to talk about it. I just only lately found that there was an Egyptian doctor in Berlin, in Germany, which was hiding a Jewish girl. She was searched by the Gestapo, by the German Nazi secret police, and he was hiding her. He gave her a room, a safe haven, food, on the daily food, and she survived the war. But that's only one case, my friends. What about Iran? Iran, the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, and Iran was actually an ally of Nazi Germany. So Hitler told them, you're our allies. I want you to start to give harsh, treatment for the Jews. Ghettos, concentration camps, the David Yellow Star. Yes. You know what the Iranian Shah told to Hitler? Mm-hmm. Iranian Jews are first-class inhabitants of our country. They have a full rights to be considered citizens, first class, just like as the Muslims. But I'm not going to allow any try to touch them or to harm them. And you know what happened? Hitler didn't have any choice. He accepted that. What about the Iranian ambassador to Paris, Abdul Hussein Saudari, which saved about 2,000 Iranian Jews? Yeah. They even didn't have the yellow star, as every French Jew had to carry. 70,000 Jews has been deported from France to Auschwitz. Most of them never come back. How many Iranian Jews were expelled? Not even one. He was offered a better job, a high-ranking job in Tehran by the government. He said, I can't leave the country, Paris, because these 2,000 Jews, which I'm in charge of them, will be expelled. What about the king of Morocco, Muhammad V? Or the fourth, I don't think this is the fifth. He told to the Germans, my Jewish inhabitants, 100,000 Moroccan Jews, yes. I gave them full protection. None of them were expelled to Auschwitz. The Germans had such plans for them. Yeah. Tunisia, the same thing. Libya, Egypt.
Now let's go back to
Albania. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Albania. Yeah. It's a Muslim small country. 8,000 Jews were hidden. Where? In mosques. Yeah. In this. That is Muslim anti-Semitism. If Muslims are anti-Semites, that's anti-Semitism. Saving Jews anti-Semitism, it looks like.
To hammer home the point, to illustrate the point, anti-Semitism is inherently a European problem. We've never had this problem. Muslim lands, Iraq, like you said, North Africa, after the 1492 King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, when they expelled Muslims and alongside them Jews, and they slaughtered, by the way, they've slaughtered, and Muslims had to be silent about their faith. They put lanterns outside of the Muslim houses, and along with them, like you said, the Jews went to North Africa. They went to Morocco. And then when the Zionist project started being developed with Theodor Herzl, and then in the early 20th century, when the ideology started to be developed, they almost forgot about the golden age where Jews lived under Muslim protection, paid the jizya, of course. We pay insurance here in the UK. We pay national insurance and tax, you know. That was for protection, so the Jews didn't fight in the wars with the Muslims. Actually, some of them did. One of the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, was a Jewish man who actually fought in one of the wars. Either Badr or Uhud, he was a Jewish man. He fought in one of the wars. And he left behind a lot of treasure, and that was one of the first Islamic waqf systems, which is Baytul Mal, where we distribute charity, was from the remains, was from the inheritance of a Jewish man who fought with the Muslims. So we never had the problem. So when
in Spain, my friend, the Secretary of Defense,
yes,
by the Muslim Caliphate of Abdul Rahman, the first, second, the third,
yes,
it was Rabbi Chizdai ibn Kashkash. Later on, 100 years later on, we find that there's Abu Najdallah. Najdallah in Arabic means the rich, respected Jew.
Yes.
Who was he? He was Rabbi Shmuel Anugid. Shmuel Anugid, he was the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of Treasury at the same time. He didn't have the Caliph didn't give him any time to rest. He had to work so hard for him. Yeah. And the Caliph was in his palace, and he closed his eyes. Now, I know that my Secretary of Defense, he runs the war. He was running the peace agreements with the Christian kingdom in the north of Spain. Yeah. He was winning them. It's amazing. The Muslims and Jews lived like a family.
We live like a family.
And
absolutely.
Unfortunately, this history is being erased.
Exactly.
It's been the Zionists making sure, forget, don't talk about it. And I always say every time, the Zionists are having a museum in Jerusalem that's called the Museum to remember those who saved Jews. How many Muslims been there? Almost 1, 2, 3. How many Muslims saved Jews? As I said in in Paris, he received Abu Hussein al-Sardari received an award from the Zionists. You know why? Because at that time Iran was an ally of the Zionist state. Yeah. If it would have been discovered today that he saved Jews, he would have not received any honor from the Zionists. Yes. Because Iran is anti-Zionist. Yes. It depends. If you're Muslim pro-Zionist, if you accept the deportation of 1 million Palestinians from 48, you accept the destruction of 531 villages, towns, and cities in Palestine. If you accept the conquest of Palestine and the Palestinian has no right whatsoever in Palestine, then they will discover that you saved the Jew, then they're going to respect you. But if you don't accept these horrific war crimes and crimes against humanity, against the destructions of the Palestinian culture, but against the Palestinian people as a religious people, to destroy everything that is important and good for them, but then you have no rights. What we've seen, for example, in Gaza is just the outcome of the problem. The problem was the ethnic cleansing in Palestine, that they deported 1 million Palestinians with war crimes. That's one of the most well-organized war crimes against humanity, which been ignored till today.
Yes, Nakba.
Al-Nakba, yes.
Al-Nakba, yes.
The Gaza's genocide, which we're facing today, is just a continuation of one long Nakba. And it's been, today, alhamdulillah, there is a lot of news channels that bring in the facts. The Zionists would have loved to kick out the 2.4 million Palestinians from Gaza to Sinai, or even they've thought about building an island in the west, in the Mediterranean Sea, to kick them all out. They still have their dreams, but it's too late now. They should have done it in the beginning for the war, but now it's already, alhamdulillah, it's too late. Allah doesn't allow them to do these atrocities.
Their dream is from the Nile to the Euphrates, Greater Israel. That's their dream, isn't it? And that'll be an area of 10 million people, essentially. But going back to what you said about the Golden Age, the Zionists conveniently forget this. They don't mention it. And in fact, they mention that Jews are being oppressed in the Muslim lands to support the Zionist project. So, if Jews if they give this perception, this misconception that Jews are being oppressed in Morocco, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Yemen, this will then cause the migration of Jews to the Zionist project.
Yes, there is the rewriting history. We're facing rewriting history and demonizing the Muslims. The Zionists have a very, very hard work to rewrite the history, because when they look into the history, they see how wonderful the Muslims were to the Jews. So now how you can upside down to reverse the whole thing. So what they're doing is they find sometimes small incidents, which it happens in every country, by private neighbors that sometimes they harass Jews. So they make it, that was the policy of the Muslims. It's happened sometimes that the Muslim neighbor couldn't get along with his Jewish neighbor.
Yeah.
They're doing, no, that's not one case. That shows that the whole policy, the Muslims resented the Jews and they tolerated the Jews, which is a lie. The Jews in Iraq, where my parents coming from, had the greatest time in the world. The Muslim regime tolerated them, had a sympathy for the Jews, protected the Jews, and when the Jews decided, some of them decided to side with world Zionism, then the problem started.
Yes.
No one, Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, the founder of the Muslim movement in Gaza, have said, I have nothing against Jews, I respect the Jewish religion. Yes, and I'm willing to live with Jews, but they have to give up of these national inspirations which kick us out from Palestine and creating a Zionist state on our head.
Yes.
Is that I would accept the Jews, but even if my uncle, he said, would come and take my house, I would fight them. It makes no free difference. But the Zionists are trying to show that there is a war between religions.
Yes.
Two religions. And that's what they're trying to find in the Quran, and then they're trying to find in the Torah some words. They rewrite the Torah today. We're witnessing today that many verses in the Torah has been distorted and been directed especially against the Palestinians, which is a lie. Everything is only for one purpose: to justify the genocide, justify the Nakba, justify the conquest of Palestine for the last 75 years. And that is unacceptable, and I understand that the Palestinians will not accept it. I hope that this Zionist state I'm sure now, I see a lot of signs in the world that the world starts to wake up. They see that this Zionist machine, propaganda machine, that hold in the neck every politician in the world. The AIPAC, not the AIPAC, was the AIPAC, there was the Zionist lobby, which are making sure which American politician in the Congress or in the Senate will be elected. They just now were very, very proud that 32 senators and congressmen has been elected. Yes, when they promised, of course, they been granted to be a congressman and senators, in exchange of continue a blind support and steady flow supply of weapon, arms, bombs, and money, and supporting the UN. Make sure, yes, to continue to give a blind support for this genocide, ongoing, unjustified conquest of Palestine. But alhamdulillah, we see a lot of signs as this country is shaking and it's become breakable. We witnessed that America, the first time in history, today abstained a call for ceasefire for the United Nations Security Council. And you should know that more than during years since the establishment of the State of Israel, there was about 100 times the United States used its power of veto. 60% of these decisions were vetoed. They vetoed anti-Zionist decisions.
Yes. Let me bring in Rabbi Beck a little bit here. Rabbi Beck, what do you think the problem is that the Zionists have with the Palestinians, or the Zionists have against the Muslims? Because I can ask Dr. Asif, but I have a gist of what he will say. But I want to hear the Jewish perspective on this. What do you think the problem that the Zionists have against Palestinians? Why are they treating them in such a way?
I mean, of course, the Zionists coming from Europe. I mean, for about 100 years ago, 25 years before the creation of the State of Israel, the Jewish population in Palestine was about only 10%, and the Palestinians was about 90%. And the Zionists, for whatever reason, they choose to make their own country in Israel. They choose this place to make their own country there. And they need to, like the Rabbi said, to rewrite the history, to take over the land and try to justify themselves. Why? Why they're doing this genocide? So how they can justify that? The only thing what they can justify that is to build up, to ignore all the golden history what we have with Muslims, and to give the image that the Muslims wants to kill all the Jews, and then bring up Jewish people from all Europe, Poland, Russia, Hungary, with money tricks. They bring them up before the creation of the state to become a majority, and then they come with large propaganda, false propaganda that the Muslims wants to kill all the Jews, the Muslims wants to throw all the Jews into the sea, that you can see, just ask any person in the street, they are blind with this false propaganda.
Yes.
They're just blind. You see what? Muslims? No, there was, I can tell you, when I coming to demonstrations, yes, it happened in London, there's demonstrations every week. Yes, I have it very often. There's a police, before I arrive at the place, the police stops me. Where are you going? Tell me, go to the demonstration. It's danger, they will kill you. I tell the police, come, I'll show you a miracle. Come with me, I'll show you the miracle. Don't protect me. Stay from the side. We don't need any protection. I'm going in 10 rabbis between hundreds of thousands of Muslims. Nobody touched me.
I'll tell you even more than that. In Palestine, I have a friend of mine, he lives in Palestine. He does not belong to Zirkata, but he's a very strong anti-Zionist Jew. He goes to a village, an Arab village, alone, yes, which they have like a spring, which the Jews like to go to keep their ceremonial religious activities. He goes there. When he goes there on his way with another two friends, they go alone by night. And in the beginning, the first time that when they came, the Palestinians were resented at this because they thought that these are settlers who comes to capture more houses. So he took out the Palestinian flag and he shows them, we're anti-Zionist Jews. We want your jurisdiction all over Palestine. Since then, whenever he comes, they allow them to go to this spring, which is deep into an Arab village. Usually the Zionist settlers come to this spring, they come with a military power that makes a curfew. Here, 3 Jews coming, the Muslim receive them, and they guarding on them, and they escort them outside of their village till the Jewish area. Would you believe it? Now, after 76 years of massacring, killing, systematic raping, destructions of houses, stealing of land. Just yesterday, the Zionists have confiscated 8,000 hectares of land from the Palestinians in the West Bank, so in order to build another Zionist settlement in between the villages. Why? In order to prevent them to build a Palestinian state.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken about history in the beginning of the episode. Let's talk about currently, right, in terms of the British government. I think they've kind of enforced, or they want to enforce, new laws when it comes to marches, right? Anti-Semitic laws, or what they call extremist behavior. Now, I want to hear Rabbi Beck on this one, because we've spoken about in the first episode. If myself, let's say, who's a Muslim, and Dr. Asif here, if we have the Israeli flag and we lit it on fire and we burn it, I think we'll get arrested and we'll be charged with something. Now, I've charged with
anti-Semitism.
Now, I've seen Orthodox Jews like yourselves burning the flag. Now, will you be anti-Semitic, Rabbi, if you burn the Israeli flag? Do you have Israeli flags in your house or in North London? Where
just yesterday, it was our festival. It's called Purim.
Yes.
We gather all the people together in Stamford Hill, and we're burning the Israeli flag.
Oh.
Because Purim is the day, maybe the Rabbi can explain it more, it's the day from war with Amalek.
Yeah.
I know that Netanyahu say that Hamas is Amalek. Okay. However, Amalek means people uprooting people from God. This is exactly what Netanyahu doing. Exactly what the Zionists
Why don't the rabbis say, that all our rabbis said, the biggest rabbi before the Second World War, the Chofetz Chaim, Rabbi Elchanan Beck, big holy rabbis have said that the Zionists are Amalek.
Yes.
Because they would like to uproot the Torah and the commandments that God gave us from the Jews. In the eastern countries, from northern Africa till Iran, 1.5 million Jews were deported. There was a massive attacks against Jewish synagogues and Jewish cultural centers in order to intimidate them and to show them that as the so-called the Muslims would like to kill them. They bombed synagogues full with people, killed tens of people in Egypt, in Iraq, and Yemen, and told them, the Muslims are after you. They don't want you here. The people were naive. There was no social media at that time. There was no way how to search to see the truth. And they were just left all their belongings, all their properties. Some of them were multimillionaires. They came without anything to the Zionist state, which the Zionists are changed the religion from Jewish religious Jews, to Zionist nationalists. They were their children, unfortunately.
It's a form of nationalism, exactly. And, these orchestrated bombings happened in Tunisia, happened in Egypt, happened in Iraq as well, at the synagogues, etc. And they said, look, Muslims and Jews cannot live together. This was the whole Zionist narrative. And if you push that hard enough, they say if you push a lie for so many years, it becomes a truth. But if you can see through almost 1,300 years of peaceful coexistence, you know that this bombings and all these things that have happened in North Africa were very well orchestrated by extreme right-wing fascists who were the Zionists.
Well, the Zionists has designated units, command units,
exactly.
to do it. They wrote, even some of those who bombed the synagogues admitted, and some of them even expressed regret about what they did.
Yeah.
And they wrote books about this organized crimes that they committed against Jews in order to show there's no future for Jews in the Muslim countries. But up till now, I made a research, there's about 50,000 Jews up till now lives in Muslim countries, in Iran, in Algeria, in Tunisia, in Morocco, peacefully.
It was
after 76 years of wars of conquest of Palestine.
Exactly.
Don't forget.
And that's what they conveniently want you to ignore. And also, if you look at the King David hotel bombing, which is in Jerusalem, these were Jewish. These were extremist, fascist, right-wing groups, which then became the ruling party of Israel and the IDF as well, these paramilitary groups that bombed the King David Hotel, essentially driving the British away. Just as they were driving the British away in the British mandate of Palestine, they were driving indigenous Jews from the Muslim lands to the state of Israel. Because they wanted, millions and millions and millions. But the one thing is...
My friend, you call in the Zionist terrorist army, Israeli Defense Army. You mentioned the bombardment of King David Hotel.
Yeah.
It was bombed by the Irgun Zionist terrorist, and it was about 14 Jews were killed, 25 British, and 40 Arabs were killed. That shows you how much they cared about this Jewish blood.
Yeah.
They didn't stop themselves to bomb the hotel, even though they knew there's tens of Jews inside.
Yeah.
Because they wanted with blood, they wanted to achieve this country. Even in the Holocaust, the Second World War, the Germans offered with the Zionist agency many times to exchange. We can release 1 million Jews for receiving trucks, coffee, soap, and money. They said, no, this is no good for us. Why? Because after the Second World War, they came to the United States and said, shame of you. You're all responsible for the killing of 6 million Jews. And that's why when they planned already the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, which, by the way, was explained was prepared in 1938.
Yes.
Ben-Gurion, his name should be obliterated. Yes, should be always never come out of hell, I wish. He said, ethnic cleansing in Palestine, it's not, I don't see any problem with it. He was a savage. They're a terrorist. And they're the one who rewrite the history, calling the Muslims the demons. They're the one of the demons. They're the one of the oppressors. They're the one of the savages. Animals, what they did in Gaza lately. I'm not talking about 76 years ago. But anyway, the sheikh, our friend, our brother have touched all the demonstrations, what we see today, they're peaceful demonstrations. There's no violence, no stones, no sticks, No one, every even a Zionist Jew would walk. Maybe people would yell at them. Okay, so that's.
I attend with my rabbis about 10, 15, 20, sometimes more people there. We are very welcome there. Every week. We are very, very welcome. I burning the Israeli flag, and I told for them, I burning the Israeli flag.
It's good that you said that.
Can you label me as anti-Semite? I'm very accepted rabbi in my area in Stamford Hill. I pray in all the synagogues. I'm a teacher in a few schools, and I'm very welcome there. I'm very welcome. I haven't got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Burning the Israeli flag is not anti-Semitic at all. This is only anti-genocide, anti-Zionism, anti-genocide, anti-occupation. Nothing else. The Zionist flag is not a Jewish symbol. Haven't got nothing to do with Judaism. Nothing. How people can explain? We live in Stamford Hill. I don't know. If the doctor was sometimes Stamford Hill?
Yes, I've been.
Yes. So can I ask you, how many Israeli flags do you saw?
0. In North London, I see 0. I see Jewish brothers. Oh, alhamdulillah. I was yesterday in Finchley. I spent a lot of time in Northwest, Mill Hill, Hendon, etc. I see Jews walking on the Sabbath. I see 0 Israeli flags. Honestly, I've seen 0. Because look, who was Theodor Herzl? He was an atheist. Didn't believe in God. Who is Benjamin Netanyahu? Atheist. Then he has the audacity to quote the Torah, the Hebrew Bible, by quoting Amalek.
The same Torah which he doesn't believe.
Exactly, the same Torah he doesn't believe. And also the fact that Theodor Herzl wanted to establish a Jewish homeland in the Middle East because Jews were being persecuted shows that he thought Jews could not live peacefully with other people. That's anti-Semitic in itself. Why can't they? England had a problem, 400 years of persecution. Jewish people weren't allowed to universities, etc. It wasn't Muslim Spain. It wasn't Muslim Iraq. It wasn't the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't Istanbul. We didn't have any problems with Jewish people. It was the fact that he thought, and the whole Zionist project is predicated on the fact that Jews need a separate homeland because they cannot live because they get persecuted. That in and of itself shows the anti-Semitic problem in Europe. It doesn't show anything to do with Muslims. It shows the anti-Semitic problem in Europe. If he thought Jewish people cannot live peacefully because they're getting persecuted, and they were, by the way, they were getting persecuted, but that does not mean because, if you look at Orthodox Judaism teachings, you guys are waiting for the Messiah to come before you go back, from exile into the Holy Lands. These guys don't even believe in exile or the Messiah or the Torah.
My friend, when we say we're coming back, it's the whole world will come back.
Yeah.
The whole world would be upgraded into spiritualism. Yes, which the Rabbi Joseph Chaim Sonnenfeld says the whole universe would be happy when Messiah will come. Of that Messiah we wait. The Maimonides, the advisor and the personal doctor from Sultan Khalif, Nasser Yusuf Salahuddin al-Ayyubi alayhi salam. Yes, peace upon his soul. He writes in his book, we're never waiting of Messiah to control people, to step on their head. We're waiting just for the spiritual time to enjoy the light that will come from the sky. That's what we want. Yeah. We're not waiting to step on the head of people. Yeah. This military Zionist Messiah that will enslave people, that's what they think. It's distorted, it's false, and it's not true. I can tell you, I sit with you for hours to bring you verses from Prophet Isaiah, Prophet Zechariah, which you believe in it, and he says clearly that all the people would believe in God. Some people, and that includes the Muslims and the Christians, would go higher in spirituality, and they would receive studies from Messiah. Yes, they will say the Holy Malbim, Rabbi Malbim told us, we're not going to step on your head, and we're not going to take your apartments, and we're not here to expel you again with the license of Messiah, which will be like, we're not waiting to kill you with Messiah. Yeah. We're going to live together with you. The prophet Isaiah says, Ki baisi tefilo yikol cholamim. The Jews and all people would pray for Allah, for God when Messiah will come. And that's what we're waiting for. Yeah, so there's so many verses, it's not the time. then we're not going to step on their head, and then we're not going to murder you. No, because no one will have a time for all these disputes. All the disputes between people. The main thing, the dispute between people is today is religion. It's on a ground, on natural resources, and areas that people try to grab from each other. And that's what happened in Palestine. In Palestine, it's never had with religion. The religion does not allow for Jews to come back to Palestine. And it's the theft, conquest, killing, destruction of Palestine, which by the way, I have this wonderful book, which I read it, yes, Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine.
Can I sit?
Please, take it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That shows, that has nothing to do with religion. We're talking about an atheist group, that decided, as he says, that there's an honorable, beautiful, amazing doctor which knows so much. If he's anti-Semite, then I'm anti-Semite, and Rabbi Beck is anti-Semite, and every Jew is an anti-Semite.
I mean, do you recommend,
I see that he loves. I recommend this book for everyone to buy it. Yes, it shows the truth. It shows the truth about the destruction of the culture and of the Palestinian people. It's terrible. I read it. I had tears in my eyes. I shed a lot of tears in my eyes about the destruction of Gaza. But now I read a lot about the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. I have contacts with Palestinian men and women from Lebanon who lives here in England, who told me all the story. It's amazing as people that call themselves Jews has deteriorated to be savages. But it's more amazing is the way how the world doesn't even know about it. The most well-organized ethnic cleansing in the history happened in Palestine. And no one talks about it. No one. Is such an ongoing injustice for 7 million Palestinians who live in the diaspora and abroad. They have nothing against Jews. One Palestinian woman from Lebanon, from El would tell me, Chaim, you come back with us. We come back to Palestine, we take you on the boat, we want you back to Palestine. We're talking about a woman that her grandfather was deported from Deir Hana, right in Nazareth, sitting in the North Palestine. She wants me to come back with her, because again, Jews like us, they love. They don't only appreciate, they love. I think this honorable doctor, which is a sacrifice of all this Zionist propaganda machine, that everyone who criticized the enormous war crimes, the ongoing war crimes and wars, the crimes against humanity that have been conducted against the Palestinians for the last 76 years. If he dares to criticize it, and he doesn't keep his mouth shut, so he's deserved to be deprived from his work. And that is amazing. Our British beautiful democracy of England, it can happen like that. That is like a shadow regime here, is the Zionists who control the parliament, who control everything here, the newspapers, and does not allow for someone to speak for justice. And that's why he paid the price. And I'm here to give support for this brother. We love him. He loves us. He loves us. He wants to live with us together. He lives with us together. He lived with us together. And he will live with us together with peace and harmony. I wish that he would come serve Jews in Stamford Hill to show how beautiful is this Muslim person here and how much he have compassion and understanding. It can happen. And I give him a bless that Allah will give him Allah will give him the power to survive the persecution that he goes through, and he would, inshallah, would receive a nice high-ranking post in the NHS, and the people, all the British people would open their eyes and see how they've been deceived, by the Zionist vicious propaganda.
This is beautiful.
Thank you. That's very beautiful.
We have here a Jewish rabbi making supplication to Allah for our Muslim brother. Subhanallah, this is, this misconception that we have a friction or we hate each other. This is why I love to have this sit down where we can educate and engage. So we do a lot of damage control here. But I wish we had all the time in the world, but unfortunately we don't. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I'm going to bring Dr. Asif Munaf here. Dr. Asif, you are not some dim-wit extremist, are you? I mean, it's a rhetorical question. The camera wasn't rolling, but when Rabbi Elhanan Beck walked into our studio, you guys embraced it. Yeah. And from me following your journey and watching you, you're currently on what we call a podcast run. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to conclude this saying. You're out here being very active. You're upholding the hadith that I stated earlier on. You're educating people You're talking about the injustice. What do you think going forward? How should we change this narrative? This is part and parcel, sitting down with the Jewish community, showing people, look, it's not what they say it is. What do you think would be a substantive way of any individual, Muslims and non-Muslims, going forward? How do we change this narrative?
Okay, so good question. And just the way we see ISIS and you see ISIS as a fringe extremist movement, which are ungodly. They don't, they claim to believe in God, but their actions are not godly. The actions are satanic. Just the way we see ISIS and all these other extreme movements in Islam, they have nothing to do with Islam. These are fascist ideologies. We should use the same lens to see Zionism when it comes to Judaism. This is a fringe movement by secular European Ashkenazi Jews to have a white ethno-supremacist state in the Middle East, which serves the commercial interests of the West. Just look at the way they treat the Hasidic Jews, the Jews from Iraq, from Iran, from Ethiopia. They are second-class citizens in Israel. So Israel is a ethno-supremacist state bound by the same Nazism which plagued Europe for many centuries. So nothing to do with Judaism. Judaism is mentioned in the Quran. It's, as you say, many Muslim children get circumcised by Jewish rabbis in the East, in the North as well. We share the same food. We can intermarry. We live for many centuries together. So Muslims and Jews, we see you as people of the book. We have no problem at all. We lived for many centuries together. Zionism's come along now in the last 125 years, has hijacked Judaism, and with very, very slick PR, hasbara they call it, the deception, the emotional rhetoric they use in their, in their PR machine, in their online publications, to hijack the conversation and to conflate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. I must take my hats off. They've done a very, very good job in that. And that's a big part of it is down to AIPAC. The lobby is very strong in the UK, very strong in America. And because of the lobby has hijacked the conversation, the plight of Jewish people after the Holocaust and the persecution and the emigration of Jews to Muslim lands has been weaponized by the Zionist project, and is conflating the criticism of genocide with criticism of the Jewish religion. And I just want people to wake up and say, look, just like with ISIS, we weren't falling for it. We know this was a fringe movement. It's nothing to do with Islam. Zionism is also a fringe movement, which is secular. It's very, very liberal. It's based in commercial interests. It's based on fascism. And we should see Zionism in the same light we saw Nazism, as the rabbi said, with the genocide. And we should see Zionism in the same light as we see ISIS.
Okay, I would like to thank my esteemed guests. It's Ramadan now, and from the deepest part of my heart, I would just like to thank everyone who've made this happen. We are not happy seeing what's going on in Palestine. This is, I would say, the minimum that we can do, but we hope that it's effective. And we ask Allah to protect our brothers and sisters in Palestine.
Ameen.
And we also ask Allah to bring our brotherhood together between Jewish and Muslim people. I also like to thank the rabbis for coming, and this is the third time you've come, and every time I've asked for you guys to come on this platform, you've never asked why you're here. And this just shows that you are very strong in this movement. And I also support the Natarai Carter, the anti-Zionist movement. And also not to forget everyone that's behind the production, everyone that's behind the cameras who've done a lot today to make this show happen. So thank you guys, and hopefully we'll see you guys again. And before I wrap up, all of the information that you need will be on the link on our YouTube channel. Natarai Carter's information will be there. Dr. Asif Munaf, all his profiles and socials will be on the YouTube channel. Jazakumullah khairan. Good. Let's get the picture.